I think I'd be ignorant to say that Christianity is the only right religion. I don't know what the right religion is. It's just what I believe it is.
Some people that I've met, I've had friends, and the minute they find out about me, or the minute that I do anything that doesn't follow their religion, they don't want anything to do with me.
There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad that can come out of it. And I'm not sure if it's from religion that the bad or the good comes out of it, or whether it's the people.
I respect a lot of faiths, and I think that Christianity is the pillar that's influenced by the other great religions in the world.
La cristianidad es muy importante porque podemos aprender valores cristianos donde donde descubrimos más acerca de nosotros.
My view on anyone who claims to have a monopoly on truth is that there's no one truth about anything. I think that a lot of religions say the same thing in different ways.
Please pray with me. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Welcome back to week 4 of Explore God. Last week, we dug into the question, why does God allow pain and suffering? And we acknowledge that there's multiple facets to that question. There's an intellectual barrier, a kind of head problem, but there's also, even more so, a heart problem. When that suffering and that pain is experienced in our own body and life and in the lives of people that are near and dear to us, that opens up a whole new world of trouble and questioning in our lives. Today, as we move forward into this next question, we're going to kind of enter headspace again, okay? And so bear with me on this as we do that. Today, we're going to talk about this essential question of, is Christianity the only way? Or we could say another way, is Christianity too narrow? Of course, this rises to the forefront of our minds because we're incredibly aware of, on a daily basis, the diversity of faith systems in our world, as well as people who kind of consider themselves and their viewpoint outside of one of those streams of faith that's been handed down and the like. And so there's this challenge that comes forth that says, with so many different options, how can there be just one that is ultimately true? There can't be just one true religion. We might be very, very tempted, reasonably so, to think, right? And so this is kind of the widely held notion within our culture. And one of the ways that we go about kind of tackling that is also by a story that's been handed down to us over the ages. The story involves these blind men who are grasping around, and they come across this thing, and like one is going, oh, it's kind of this like trunk thing, it's kind of breathing, moving, it's kind of this big flat, flappy thing, and it's kind of this round, bulgy thing, and maybe it's this foot thing, and then it's this fuzzy kind of dangly thing over here. And so the story goes that this is what belief is in our world. This is what the faith systems of our world do. They grasp around like blind people, seeing only as far as they can touch, right? And not seeing the context, the broader context. Now, I think this story is sticky for a reason. It's very memorable, and there is some value to it. And I think the value is found in this: the recognition that we all experience life from a unique viewpoint. That we all have a limited ability to see the whole picture. We all have blind spots. And so, as a result, we can, with great humility and great empathy and compassion, acknowledge the fellow seekers, the people who are also on a journey alongside us. Okay? The problem that I have as we use that picture, and what's problematic as we utilize that, is it requires that somebody in the story that's handed down to us, this king person, is able to stand off from a distance like you are in the pew right now and go, "Come on, you silly people, it's an elephant. Shouldn't you know that? Isn't it obvious?" And so the person who has the outside perspective claims to have the omniscient viewpoint that isn't possible from any other perspective. You tracking with me? So in other words, no omniscient perspective is to be found through any of the faith perspectives. None of them is valid except for mine. So you stand in that place without a foundation and this kind of thing. And so there's benefit and there's detriment to kind of thinking about religious systems in that way. Then there's kind of this other thread that happens in our world. Because there are so many faith perspectives, we get a bit squeamish when we start talking about truth. And we start talking about kind of this religion being kind of the true one, or the God referred to in this system being the true God. And so we kind of, step back into a corner, and we're a bit reserved about that notion, even if we profess these things to be true. We maybe don't let everybody know that we're thinking that way, right? And so we're a little bit reticent to make exclusive truth claims because we might be perceived by others as more narrow-minded. The person who's outside of those perspectives is the more open-minded kind of person. Except for when you stand outside of that faith perspective and you say, nobody can make an exclusive truth claim, none of those religious systems can make an exclusive truth claim that's valid. This is an exclusive truth claim that doesn't include everyone. And so we all end up in that place of excluding someone. We all end up in an exclusive position. Exclusive truth claims are almost unavoidable and inevitable in our world. We all are prone to do it. And yet, we can acknowledge that an omniscient perspective is not possible for any one human being. Okay? Tracking with me? I said we're going to get heady. I gave you the forewarning. We're there, okay? So then where do we go from here? What do we do with that? Well, maybe first we could say, don't necessarily throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't shy away from claiming a perspective of faith as though that's in somehow a lesser position or a more close-minded position than others who claim to be outside of one. We're all kind of in the same sort of boat. So how do we proceed? Well, we might ask, if everybody inevitably makes exclusive truth claims in some way or another, then what do those exclusive truth claims lead to? What kind of people do these exclusive truth claims in this system inspire people to become in their lives? And how does that exclusive truth claim lead you to look at and to treat other people who are outside of that system? And so this kind of brings us to the main question of today. Like, why Christianity in the midst of the menu of options? Why is there merit to holding to this one, right? And so we'll start. This is really just getting into what is Christianity all about. See, we believe that God, the creator of the universe, translated God's self into human flesh and became a man in the person of Jesus and walked into the neighborhood, lived among us, John's gospel says, full of grace and truth. Now, if you're already going, well, that's weird. Weird is also unavoidable, regardless of what faith perspective you have. We're all weird, okay? So it's just different kinds of weird, depending on who's looking in. Anyways, full of grace and truth, this Jesus came. This, we say, God drew near to us. And that's significant because on the one hand, full of truth, right? Jesus made exclusive truth claims, said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. No one experiences the fullness of all that God intends in relationship with God and in living out the things of this world. Nobody experiences the fullness of that apart from him, okay? And so he does. And to be faithful to what we profess, we need to own up to that. Jesus himself said it, right? But then there's this other side. See, truth can be narrowing, it can be confining, but full of grace as well. That this message, this goodness, this God coming near, is something for all people, leaving none behind, right? It's an acknowledgement that in this life we experience good things that we don't deserve, blessings that way. That's grace, and we're spared from some of the punishment that might be deserved through bad things that we do and the ways that we treat other people. That's mercy. And so Jesus, he came full of grace and truth. Ephesians 2 gives us kind of a glimpse into what this grace is like. For it is by grace that you've been saved through faith. It's not your own doing. It's the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. Now just let that sink in a bit. We believe we didn't initiate the connection with God, that it wasn't about our seeking with God that merited God's response to us, but that God sought us first. And apart from our own desiring of this, okay? And so we believe God came near by grace through faith and not a result of the things that we do, not a result of morally pure or superior life, not as a result of having some secret and special knowledge that other people have just because I'm smarter, not because we're better looking than other people, right? So there is no sense of bragging rights that are allowed within this perspective. There's a leveling of the playing field that says we together are in this common humanity and we need grace, the very thing that we profess that God supplies, gives freely to us, right? And so when we come into this space and when we confess the things that we do with that as a very clear backdrop, it leads to a way of seeing ourselves and a way of seeing other people. That means I do not need to put on kind of a fake facade toward other people. I can own up to the fact that I am a screwed up sinner, and that is a large part of why I am here, because I need healing. I am no better than any of you, okay? We're all in this together, and we can be real about that. The only goodness that's here is what God supplies in our direction, right? And yet, right, not just that the bragging rights are removed in this space, but the very things that we confess and the truth that's revealed in the scriptures that we cling to leads us to think of and to act toward others outside of our faith tradition differently as well, right? And so there are things like Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 that says God set eternity in the hearts of all people, and so we can witness this yearning for a connection with the divine, this yearning for an understanding of the cosmos and a shared connection that way that is implanted in all of us. We profess that all of humanity is created in the image of God, and yet none of us fully carries that. We are all broken and sinful, right? In Romans, in that letter, Paul writes that even those who don't have the law, those who don't stand within a faith tradition, the faith tradition that we have, even those that don't have the law, show that they have the law written on their hearts, sometimes in the way that they live. And so we see some sense of morality and conscience emerging even in people beyond Christianity. And we shouldn't be surprised by this, right? And so what does this mean, friends? That we can actually dare to be connected to and learn from people who have opposing exclusive truth claims to ourselves, right? And that we can see in them wisdom and goodness, and even we can see in our Jehovah's Witness or Hindu or Sikh neighbors even a sense of, wow, you are like a better person than I am. Like, you seem to be living a morally superior lifestyle, and we don't have to be kind of insecure about that. We can really lean in and acknowledge that as well. Christianity, it calls us to be like the one who is at the center of it all, God taking on human form, who even in his dying breath, suffering excruciating pain on the cross, forgave the ones who took his life. This Jesus who taught on the mountainside to all of his followers that we're not just to love those who believe and live the same things that we do, those friends that are close to us, but we're to love even our enemies, those who make competing truth claims over and against the things that we believe. This Christianity that we profess begins with God translating himself into human form, and it continues to translate into all of the other cultures of all the world. See, we hold dear this core set of beliefs about Jesus and the Bible and this story that we're a part of, and yet the practice and the expression of this takes on all sorts of different forms, not only here in Chicagoland, but all throughout the world. Get this, friends. You're the global minority in this Christian family that we're a part of. I think we do well to acknowledge it. That Christianity moved far from its places of origin and has migrated to different areas of the globe. And so our brothers and sisters who profess Jesus as Lord are found all over the global south, places like South America and Africa and Asia and the like. And this is a gift for all people, we believe, right? Paul, he models this grace and truth approach. He is honest and authentic in that exclusive truth claims are needing to be made. We can't avoid it and still kind of be faithful. And yet, his approach is one of grace and humility and curiosity. And so he listens. And he seeks to understand what is the common craving and the common thread here. And doesn't claim for himself a sense of superiority, but rather points people to that greater thing. And so his witness is more like this sort of amazing aroma, this gift that's been discovered that's too good not to share. So friends, believe in the fullness of what we profess. Cling to it with hope. And live in the manner of the one who we profess as Lord. In all its fullness. In all the fullness of grace and truth for all people. I propose to you that Christianity can be a powerful force of hope and peace in our troubled world. And friends, God provided a way for everyone to have peace. For everyone. This is profoundly inclusive and not exclusive. Following Jesus is distinct, unique in some ways than every other faith on earth, in that we profess this sense of God coming near to us, trying to get us, seeking after us with great love and with great sacrifice, rather than us proving or earning something in order to get God. Most religions boil down to humanity trying to reach God, but in Christianity, God is reaching humanity. Friends, live the love of Jesus. Live his sacrificial love for enemies, love for those different than you, in amazing and infectious ways, all the while maintaining that this journey with Jesus is one worth taking. Next week, is Jesus really God? So we'll continue the journey. And all God's people said, Amen.